speed, and we love speed. And we see players like John Ross running a record 4.22 in the 40. Yo, this is Tribe with Yo Tribe Sports Bag. As you can see, back in the kitchen once again, and I'm still cooking up the best information you're probably gonna get in about 10 minutes or less, somewhere around that. We're talking a bunch of sports, not just football, basketball, baseball. We're talking about whatever is interesting to you. But before we do that, you know we gotta do the YouTube thing. That means do me this favor, and I'll even give you a second or two to do it. Subscribe to this channel. Go ahead and do that. Boom, I'm back. Subscribe to the channel. Help a brother get to 1,000 subscribers. Not because I want to make money. That would be a good idea. But I like having a large sports community. A whole bunch of sports people. We all have something in common. All of the sports that I've named, we can all come together and do the thing with all the sports that we can talk about. Anyway, you saw the thumbnail. You know what this is about. It's about the NFL Combine. It's upon us right now. A whole bunch of young prospects are up in Indianapolis right now preparing for their possible futures in the NFL come April during the NFL draft. Now, as the thumbnail also asked, is it worth it? I'll tell you this, I don't believe it is. Why? What do these players really have to prove? You've played all of these years, whether it's just 2 years or just 3 years. I mean, 2 years if you're redshirted, but if it's 3 years or 4 years, 5 years, sometimes even 6 years, you should have enough film out there for them to just come to a pro day, and that should be it. These scouts, these general managers, it's their job to follow these players all year long, these quality players, the not so quality players, the big schools, the small schools. It's their job to find these diamond in the rough players and all other players, follow them all of these years, take all the notes they need to know, speak to the coaches, speak to the players, speak to their teachers, and then have an analysis or an idea of what this player can do, with his film being the paramount factor. However, it isn't like that. It's become a circus over all of these years, and we love it. I love it, you love it, so you better admit that as well. It's not an exact science. After all they do, all of the millions of dollars spent, it isn't an exact science, because if so, Tom Brady would not have been a 6th-round draft pick. Duh, he would have been the #1 pick overall. You're talking about the best value pick of all time. That's it. And I don't think it was intentional. It was inadvertent. They wanted him probably as just a backup, maybe a solid quarterback, and he turned into a freaking legend. That's what happened. Other things that come with the combine, the Wonderlic. Of course, we know what the Wonderlic is. It's going to show where your mental capacity is. What can you do mentally on a football field to go along with the physical prowess? Well, you would like your quarterback who has the ball more than anybody else, along with the center, and makes the best decisions, or expected to make the best decisions, and know everything that's going on. You would like the quarterback to have the highest score. Although that isn't the case based on averages, as centers average 25 points and tackles average 26 points out of the maximum score of 50 points you could get on the Wonderlic. Quarterbacks averaging 24, which is solid as hell. You would like your quarterback to have that, because it's a very burdensome job to be a quarterback in the NFL. A lot of pressure, a lot of cerebral energy, in addition to the athleticism. However, there comes a time when a player may have more talent than brains, or more talent than acuity, for lack of a better term, and you'll have a Ryan Fitzpatrick coming from Harvard with a 48 on the Wonderlic out of 50, and you'll give him all types of hell because he came from Harvard. He didn't play against the big dogs all the time, so you're really not so sure if you should take him or not. And when you do take him, he has a long career. No, he isn't a stud. He's had his moments in his long NFL career, but he's not the superstar player that you drafted or didn't draft, or however way he came into the NFL. On the other hand, you'll get someone like Vince Young, who has all of the talent physically in the world. You watched him at Texas. You saw him win that national championship against USC, and you was in awe of all of his physical gifts. But then he gives you a 6 on the Wonderlic, and you're wondering, what the hell? And guess what? You realize it's not too much of an issue. You convince yourself this guy with a 6 can play quarterback, the most important position on the field. You bring him in, and you see how it turned out. Things did not turn out well for Vince Young with a 6. And my cautionary quote, if your Wonderlic score is lower than your shoe size, things are not going to work out. Now, of course, we're here when we go to any combine to look at the 40-yard dash. It's the most glamorous thing of all the testing they do at the combine, the standing broad jump, the vertical jump, all the throws and all the catches that are made. The 40-yard dash stands out more than anything else. Why is that? We need speed, and we love speed. And we see players like John Ross running a record 4.22 in the 40. But then when the season starts and his career starts, it doesn't translate to the football field. We've seen Jerome Mathis run a 4.26 coming out of Hampton University, a small HBCU. And he did some things on special teams, but his career fizzled away just as well. And then we look at guys like Jerry Rice, 4.71 coming out of Mississippi Valley State, another HBCU, 4.71 in the 40. That's considered molasses. That's doo-doo sliding down the wall. But he becomes the greatest wide receiver of all time. The best work ethic, the best body of work for any wide receiver, Jerry Rice is the man, and the records he set won't be broken for decades, if at all. And then you have Emmitt Smith, another Hall of Fame running back coming out of the University of Florida, playing for the Dallas Cowboys, ending his career with the Arizona Cardinals. He runs a 4.55. There isn't anything spectacular about a 4.55. Herschel Walker has done better than that. Bo Jackson has done better than that. Walter Payton has done better than that. But Emmitt Smith is number 1 in NFL history at this very time, rushing the football. So that lets you know the need for speed is adjustable, because we also have another great one. Tyrell Davis ran a 4.72 coming out of Georgia. He was at Long Beach State first with the great George Allen, comes to Georgia, gets injured pretty often, doesn't do anything spectacular. He gets picked in the 6th round. And what happens? He becomes a star. He becomes a Hall of Famer. And Tyrell Davis killed the narrative of being a blazing fast running back. He played in Denver, had that zone blocking scheme. He was a fantastic running back, now a Hall of Famer. So you ask yourself as well, why do offensive linemen have to do the 40-yard dash? They don't go down the field 40 yards. In fact, there's even a penalty for illegal man downfield, which is offensive lineman. So you can't even go down 10 yards. So why does a 40-yard dash matter to an offensive lineman? And then finally, we come to game film. Does game film mean anything anymore? Do people care about game film, or are they so enamored with what happens in a workout setting that has something to do with football, but not the ability to play the game that you saw on film? Mike Mamula is the prime example. Coming from Boston College, Mike Mamula was a very solid player, nothing special, but he goes to the combine, blows the lids off the door because of his athleticism. The Philadelphia Eagles were baited and switched. They took him, and he becomes an average player, or worse. He was a weight room Tarzan, football field Jane, and he's no longer in the NFL. Well, I wouldn't expect him to be here now anyway, but you get what I'm talking about. 2002, we had Bryant McKinnie, offensive tackle for the Miami Hurricanes. They went to a national championship game. They won a national championship game. Bryant McKinnie never gave up a sack in his collegiate career. That should be what you need to know as far as the best tackle in the draft. But what happens? Mike Williams of Texas becomes the number 1 tackle in the draft, going number 4 overall. And McKinney, upset as he should have been, went number 7 to the Minnesota Vikings. So there you go. The stats should mean something. The film should matter. Why doesn't it? Every now and then you get an anomaly out there like Teron Armstead. This is an offensive lineman for all craps and giggles, for lack of a better term. 6'4", 306 pounds, ran a 4.71 as an offensive lineman. So that's very spectacular. That's something for the eyeballs, but it still doesn't have anything to do with the position at hand. In addition to him, we know about the one and only Tony Mandarich. His steroid-induced 4.65 at 304 pounds, coming out of Michigan State, the number 2 pick overall, and one of the biggest busts of all time. Thanks to Jamarcus Russell. He's not as big a bust as he should be, and people kind of forgotten about him generations later. If you like this kind of content, look, I have something on Georgia that you might want to see right here, so check it out. This is Trav. Leave a comment, share, let us know what's going on. This is Yo Tribe Sports Bag. Catch you again next time.